I had some friends who weren't into getting the vaccine at all. They weren't keen on the vaccine, which I think should have been the resistance slogan for the anti-vaccine march. Instead, they went with "fuck the government," which is fair. I think not keen on the vaccine sounds better, but that's just me. But I had some friends who weren't keen on it at all, and I wanted to understand like why they weren't keen on it. So instead of just being like, hey, you know, getting down on them, I thought I'd have a conversation with them. Some friends, they were in the South Island, yes. And I went down, when I was down there and I had a yarn with them and I got to the bottom of it. And what I think it usually came down to, it was like a lack of understanding around the whole process, and that led to a mistrust. A lack of understanding sort of led to a mistrust, and that makes sense when you think about it. A lack of understanding leading to a mistrust. But the weird thing is that only applies when it comes to the medical profession. Like, you don't get a lack of understanding leading to a mistrust in, like, the building profession. Like, you don't get someone walking into, like, you know, like an architecturally designed church with, like, a huge dome gaping over the roof. Someone walking in, and they're like, oh, look at that dome. I do not understand how it's holding up. Therefore, it's trying to kill me and my fucking family. It's designed by Bill Gates. I can tell by the windows. The guys over this side, that's a better joke than that. That's a legit joke. These guys loved it. You guys were awfully quiet. That's a banger of a joke. Best joke I've ever written. And a lot of you guys didn't get it. I'm going to put it out there. I need you guys to get it all. I really do. You're going to have to... Because Bill Gates is from Microsoft. Microsoft is from Windows. It's my fault, to be honest. It's my fault because I just thought you guys looked like a smart crowd. So that's my thought you guys would be on board instantly, but no, we'll warm you up. I can't explain every joke, guys. You've got to... You understand how jokes work. The worst one, and I won't talk about the vaccine for too long, but the worst one when it comes to the vaccine is a dude I know, also from the South Island, and he wrote on Facebook, I don't want to get the vaccine because then they'll be able to track me. And he posted that on Facebook with no hint of irony about the platform he was using. And when I saw the message, the first thing I thought, I was like, oh, buddy, I hate to break this to you. But quite simply, no one gives a fuck about you. No one cares enough about you to track you. Like, and I mean that about everyone in this room, myself included. No one cares about us. No one cares about what we do in our day-to-day lives. Like, I really don't think anyone cares. I think in New Zealand there's like maybe 20 people who need to legitimately be concerned about their movements being tracked. And those people are pedophiles. So, if you are anti-vaccine, you're pro-pedophile. Just want to put that out there. That's a thing I'm going to say out loud while it's being recorded. I think that should have been the official slogan of the vaccine rollout. I honestly do. Big posters, anti-vaccine, pro-pedophile. With a big old picture of Jacinda's face like, kia ora. Today we have one case of pedophile. You guys are a cool crowd, man. It's nice. I look out there, I see some beautiful faces. Very young, cool crowd, can I just say. No, I like to get a couple of baby boomers in normally, but there doesn't seem to be any, which is... it's understandable that no boomers came to the show, to be fair, because it must be hard to peel themselves away from their normal favourite pastime, which is just sitting in their house that they own on their favourite chair, staring at the wall, watching it appreciate in value in real time. Home ownership's a hell of a gig. It is... Lovely stuff. Also, if you're confused by that, I'll break down any barriers. If you don't know what a baby boomer is, the correct definition of a baby boomer is someone who would leave a sporting event they paid good money for 5 minutes early in order to beat the traffic on the way home. A couple of other ways to identify a boomer. There are a couple of other easy ways to identify a boomer. Another one is all of the opinions and truths that they hold dear to their hearts. It's something they misheard Mike Hosking say on Talkback Radio. Another one is often they'll tell you a story, a long and winding story, and in the telling of the story, they'll reveal some of the ethnicities of the characters in the story. And then at the end of the story, it becomes pretty clear the ethnicities had nothing to do with the fucking story. And the last one is they'll take a phone call, put it on speakerphone, and then hold the phone to the side of their fucking head with the torch on. Just to remind everyone they have no idea what they're doing in life. Anyone having a couple of beers tonight? One dude down the back, super into it. Yeah. In a weird way, drinking has influenced my life like quite profoundly. And I'll tell you a story of how it has. Back in the day, quite a few years ago, if I'm honest, I went to a place called Otago University. When I finished high school, I went to Otago University and I went to O-Week, my first exploit away from home. I went down to Dunedin. I got there and I went up to the halls of residence to check in for a place to stay for my first year. And I went and I said, hey, can I check into a room? And he's like, cool, what's your name? And I was like, Tony Lyall. He goes, your name's not on the list. And I was like, a list? And he was like, yeah, like, you applied, right? And I was like, applied? And he's like, yeah, you needed to apply last August. It's a very arduous application and I was like, arduous? What the? No, I haven't. And to be honest, that part of the story never gets a big laugh at all. But I do like to say it just to illustrate how much of a piece of shit the careers counsellor at Marlborough Boys College in 2004 was. Like, holy shit, do your job. It's so bad. And so I sort of saw my university career going up in smoke before my eyes because I had nowhere to stay. And I asked him, I was like, well, can I get a room? Like, how does it work? And he goes, well, if anyone drops out, we'll let you know. People often drop out, don't worry. And I was like, okay, I'll do it. And so every single day of O-Week, I went back to that hall. And every other hall, I went around every morning and was like, has anyone dropped out? Has anyone dropped out? And I was greeted with a wall of no's. No one had dropped out the whole time. And I was getting like pretty desperate. It was like the Friday of O-Week. And I was like, man, I'm going to actually have to not go to uni anymore until next year. And then I'll be able to apply and do it the proper way. And then I got a phone call out of the blue one of the mornings. And it was the head of halls from Cumberland Hall. And he rang me up and he said, Tony, we've got a room for you. And I was like, incredible. I'll move in today. And he goes, oh, hear me out. See, the girl in the room has had a huge night last night. She's got way too drunk. She's power chucked all through the room. So you're going to want to give it 24 hours to let us clean it because it's a real purple goanna Chernobyl situation in there at the moment. And I was like, okay, no worries. So I did. So the very next day I moved in and they'd done a decent job. There was still some lingering traces of the scent. But I moved in and I lived my whole first year in the Hall of Residence, Cumberland Hall. I met some of my very best friends who I have to this day in the hall that year. I met a girl called Catherine who went on to become my girlfriend, who went on to become my wife. And then we subsequently had 3 beautiful children together. And sometimes, like in the quiet moments, I can't help but to think, like if that girl didn't get massively shit-faced, I wouldn't have a fucking family. Do you know how crazy that is? That my life's happiness depends on a girl being like, shots, shots, shots. So if you're having a couple of drinks tonight and after the show you go downstairs to the bar and you think, should I have one more? The answer should be fucking yes. Someone's happiness could depend on it. Get shit-faced, give someone kids. Like, not all tonight, by the way. You're going to want to space that out for a considerable amount of time. And I do have 3 awesome kids. They're amazing. Having kids is a life-changing experience. It really is. It's a great thing. You learn a lot over the period of time, and you can get in trouble in various ways. One of the ways that I found out you can get in trouble is when your kids learn to talk, because they use the words that you use in the privacy of your own home. They pick them up and use them in the wild. When you're not there to justify the use of the word or give it any context, and it can land you in hot water, you've got to be careful, especially when you're referring to the words for the downstairs, for this area. Because you can't just say anything, because your kid's going to mirror it. You can't have your kid walking into kindergarten and being like, oh, miss, can I please go piss out of my cock? Too aggressive. You also can't have your kid walking in and going, oh, miss, I've got an itchy schlong. No. That's too gnarly. So we've gone with penis in our household. All we say is penis. So that's not all we say. No, we use heaps of words. Verbs, adjectives, the works we're using. Not just walking around like, oh, penis, 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 penis. There's a kiss on the lips, by the way, in the act out. I wasn't kissing a giant's penis. We're getting off track early doors, guys. This is... So in reference to down here, we say penis in our house. And it paid off pretty early with my boy. He was about 2.5, and we're in the shower together, and I've got a shower bath all in one because I'm doing it very well. Yeah, I love my shub. I love the shub. It's a great invention. Like, I love having to step over sort of a foot of porcelain to stand in a slippery half-pipe of death every time I want to take a shower. I love taking my own life into my own hands every time I want to bathe. But I got in there and I was having a shower with the boy, and I'm sort of in the middle here, the shower head's here, I'm nice and warm under the shower. The boy, he's down there, he's cold, but he's happy to be involved. He's just stoked to be there. Like, if you're a parent and you're showering your kid and they're getting any water, you are doing it wrong. They don't need any. So anyway, I'm in the shower, I'm here, nice and warm, shower head here, he's down there, cold, happy. And I can see he's like mulling something over in his little head, right? He's sort of thinking about something. He's looking around. He's like electric eyes, and he looks down at himself. And he looks up at me, and just out of the blue, he just goes, "Daddy, I have a penis." And I got excited. I was like, "Oh man, I didn't prompt this in any way. He's using this word of his own volition. This is like a teachable moment." And I got excited. I wanted to encourage it. I was like, "Buddy, you've got a penis." And then he picked up on my excitement. He was like, "Daddy, you have a penis." And I was like, "I do, man, I do." And then he said, and this is a direct quote, verbatim, from an at the time 2.5-year-old, he said, "Daddy's got a ginormous penis." And I said, "Yeah, boy." Woo-hoo-hoo. You're going to have to spread that shit. I need you to tell everyone you've ever met this shit. I need this rumour rippling through the antenatal mums club. Like, I want to push the pram into the next meeting and for the mums to be like, "I hear this motherfucker is packing. I hear there's not even a baby in that pram. That's just to support his massive penis." I don't know if that's how the mums in antenatal class talk. To be honest, they don't invite me back to the meetings after they came to one of my comedy shows. And so like I said, we've got 3 kids. We had our first, he came the day after my 30th birthday. And there's this weird thing that sort of happened that in our sort of friend group, we were the first people to have kids. And a lot of people outside my friend group sort of think, "Oh, you're a bit of a young dad." And I think it's crazy that I'm considered a young dad having a kid at 30. Because when my granddad was 30, he was also my granddad. Don't do the maths, by the way. Doesn't check out. But yeah, I think it's weird. And some of our friends are having kids now, sort of 34, 35. They're coming up and asking us for advice. They're like, "Hey, we've got some advice about having kids." And one of our friends is like, "Hey, we're thinking about having a home birth. What's your advice around a home birth?" And I was like, home birth, interesting. What you're going to have to do is take out full home and contents insurance. Because after the birth, you're going to have to burn that fucker down. So messy, so messy. Like, I don't know if you've seen a fully pregnant woman. Their bellies are massive. Babies are tiny. The rest of that belly is just goop. And if you're having the birth at home, the goop's got to go somewhere. And if it's in your lounge room, it's going on your curtains, your couch, and your Persian rug. It's going to ruin the lot. It's very messy stuff. And it is messy. Another one of our friends is like, "Hey, to get around the mess, we're thinking of having a water birth. What's your advice on a water birth?" And I was like, "A water birth? In your own house?" Like, mate, I don't know how that's going to go. Like, my shub, sometimes I'm in there having a shower, and the very few hairs coming out of my head are enough to clog the drain, and I end up having a sort of shower ankle deep in wastewater. I just don't know how the plug is going to cope with the entire contents of a freshly popped birth sack. Just got real. Just got real. And water birth is messy. You think it's going to be clean? Nah, man. It's messy. If you don't know what a water birth looks like, tonight go home to your house, run the bath to full, right to the tippity top, and then stand back, look at the bath, and throw in an extra large Hawaiian pizza. Now that laugh is a truly lovely noise. A real mixture of silence, disgust, and a few sickos. Mainly, because when you, like, one of the realizations you have when you have kids is that you're getting older. Like, it's coming at you. There's no denying it. And I've known for a while I'm getting older. And I think you can tell why. Like, fairly recently, I went into a supermarket to buy a box of beers, and the lady behind the counter was like, "Oh, can I see some ID?" I wasn't wearing a hat at the time. It was just this face staring back at the woman. I was like, mate, if I am 17 years old, I'm the single most tragic 17-year-old to ever walk the earth. Imagine this head in a school uniform. You start to give a little page to that little guy. You'd be like, I don't know what he's got, but he ain't got long left. Take $50, anonymous donation. And I sort of said that to the lady, obviously a shorter version of that, and so quickly she was like, "You're right," and stopped IDing me, which is more hurtful, much more hurtful. I don't know if you guys know this, but in New Zealand, once you've started the ID process, it's literally illegal to stop it until you've seen the ID presented, which means that this lady was like, "Mate, I'd rather go to jail than carry on with this charade." Because you're old as fuck. And it got me thinking, if you know anyone who's like 15 years old, 16 years old, 17 years old, trying to get a fake ID to go in the club, tell them not to worry about it. You do not need a fake ID. All you need to do is just shave the fucking front off your head. The beers are yours. The beers are yours. I'm aware I have an interesting looking head. Sort of came to a front recently, just before the pandemic started. I was at a music festival called Splore Festival, just outside of Auckland. If you don't know what Splore is, basically it's a music festival where young, rich people go to pretend to be poor. But it's a lovely festival. It has a really great vibe there, and it was sort of the Saturday night, the big part of the festival. There's about 12 of us dancing around, sort of in a circle, having a great, well, not, there was like thousands, but we were in a small group of 12. We hadn't started our own shit. There was heaps of people, and there was thousands of people when we were a small group dancing around in the middle, having a great old time. And I was sort of like aware that on the other side of sort of where we were, there was like, you know, a commotion going on. You know, when you can sort of vaguely tell, you're like, something's going on. And then it seemed to resolve. Like, everyone sort of chilled out, and they actually had a good old laugh. And then all of a sudden, like, a lot of them sort of glanced over at me, and then they looked off. And I was like, oh, this is a weird vibe. What happened there? Anyway, I just carried on. And then I found out later what had happened. And what had happened was, it was actually quite serious, to be honest, looking back in hindsight, as we were dancing around, and a girl who wasn't part of our group had looked down, and she'd seen a girl. And she'd seen the girl, and then she'd seen a guy sort of looking at the girl in a dodgy way. So she'd gone down to the girl and gone, "Hey, listen, there's a guy over there. I don't know if you know him or anything, but he's giving you super creepy vibes. And I don't know if you're safe. You're here with friends. I don't know if you're here alone. But I think, you know, I'm just trying to look after you. Do you want to go get a drink or something and just leave the area?" And she, you know, obviously it was a misunderstanding. She's like, no, I'm fine. I'm here with all my friends. I'm totally sweet." And she goes, "Cool. Great." And afterwards I was like, man, that's great. It's so like cool. Women supporting women. What an incredible development. And I thought it was great right up until I found out that the girl that this woman had come over to help was my wife. And the man was me! Do you know how it feels to have someone see you looking at your wife, and then they think to themselves, "I've got to intervene"? It's insane. I'm like, oh my God, like my wrestling dance move is sex pest. Who knew? You guys are a fun crowd, man. This is a really fun thing to get to do. You're out there having a good time. You know, my favourite crowd, though, unfortunately. I have to be real with you. Don't freak out. You know why. It's because not even a comedy crowd, my favourite crowd. My favourite crowd ever in the world is the crowd at the Vodafone Warriors. It is a great crowd to be at. They're an unpredictable crowd. They really are. They're unruly in the best sort of way. I was once at a Warriors game. It was a lull and play, nothing going on. Everyone was quiet. A real old dude stood up out of the blue, yelled at the referee, "Die, sir!" And then just sat back down. And I was like, man, that's a crazy thing to yell, because it's only 2 words. One of them, super hurtful. The other one, quite respectful, actually. He addressed them by his correct rank and title. it easy, soldier. And it got me thinking, I was like, man, there's no one policing what you yell at the Warriors. We should be taking advantage of this. We really should. So next time they're in town and they play a game, or probably any sports team for that matter, go along and use it as an opportunity. Like, have a yell. Like, start off with something small, something game related, just like your classic, like, oh, come on, sir, they've been doing it all day. And then you can just vent. Oh, come on, sir, no one's emptied the dishwasher in 3 weeks at work. Oh, come on, sir. Why can the government put a 15-cent per litre tax on fuel? Yet if I shop at Countdown on the right day, I get a 15-cent per litre saving on fuel, which shows that the fuel company is more than happy to take a 15-cent per litre loss on fuel if it is part of their overall marketing budget, which means we should impose that 15-cent per litre tax on the already multi-billion-dollar fuel company in the first place, instead of taking it out of the back pocket of the already cash-strapped consumer like you and me, sir. Oh, sir, why did my parents get divorced? You can just yell. Like I said, this is my favourite thing to do, get to come out and talk to people. It's like part of my job. My other part of my job is I work on a television show called The Project. If you've seen the television show The Project, you may have seen me on The Project. Also, if you've seen the show The Project, you may not have seen me on The Project, because apparently me asking if we should ask Ashley Bloomfield if anti-vaccine pro-pedophile is a good slogan for the vaccine rollout makes me somewhat of an on-air liability. Which I think is horseshit. I think it's a good question. But it's a lovely job. It's fun to do. I get to do fun stuff. Every so often someone in the street will be like, hey, are you on that TV show? And it's kind of nice usually. Like when I started working in telly, I thought getting recognised would be like cool. I was really quite excited for it. I was like, yeah, it'll be good for my ego. I'll be keen for this. But because this is New Zealand, usually it's just quite hurtful. I'll give you an example of when getting recognised off the telly was quite hurtful. It was after the first big lockdown, the big one in February 2020 when we were released again and we could go and buy a coffee at a place that we hadn't made ourselves. And I love coffee. I was excited. So I went to my favourite little cafe, a little boutique cafe. You may have heard of it, a little place called Wild Bean. You guys familiar? You guys enjoy flicking the bean from time to time? It's a lovely cafe. Like, what other cafe can you get a flat white and a Father's Day gift for Dad at the same time? It's efficiency. And I went into the cafe and I was celebrating. We're out of lockdown, so I ordered a drink I'd never normally order. I ordered an extra large flat white. And I would never normally order that, because that's not a drink, that's a latte. You guys didn't like that joke? I tell you what, it fucking crushed at the Starbucks convention I did last week. Destroyed. They loved it. After the show, they were all chanting my name as they left. I mean, they were getting my name slightly wrong, but it was a Starbucks convention. So I got my extra large flat white, and I sort of was happy. I walked back to my car, and I sort of walked back like that. And in hindsight, that was my first mistake. And I got back to my car, and because I'm a comedian, I drive a car called a Mazda Demio. Demioholic over here, my boy. I love my Mazda Demio. Honestly, it's a fast car. The hubcaps come zip-tied to the wheels. That's how you know it's fast. Otherwise, they'd fly off like shuriken stars, beheading pedestrians. Like, people say the Mazda Demio is too small. No, it's the perfect size car, because if you crash while you're driving it, it doubles as the coffin they bury you in. Just dig a hole, dump the car in, the motorway continues. No one's late. But it is a small car, I'll give you that. I'm a tall guy. So I went to get into the car. I sat down, my knees came up. I went to bring the coffee over my knee to put into the drinks holder, because that's right, the Mazda Demio has a drinks holder. But it does only have one, because it is a car for lonely people. And I went to bring it over my knee, and it sort of like clipped my knee. I underestimated how much clearance I needed, because I ordered a drink I wouldn't normally order. I ordered extra large. It was bigger. I'd normally only order a small one, because it's, you know, we've been over this. And so I brought it over my knee, and it just sort of clipped my knee like that. And because I'd been walking like that, I'd sort of sluiced some of the milk up into the join from the top of the cup and the bottom of the cup, and that had sort of made that a little bit lubricated. And so I didn't have like the purchase it needed from the top of the cup and the bottom of the cup to stay together when it clipped my knee like that. And so the little clip on my knee was all it took for the bottom of the cup to disengage entirely with the top of the cup. And I was only holding the top of the cup, so the bottom of the cup fell off completely. And long story, still pretty long, the entire contents of an extra large flat white from Wild Bean Cafe cascaded onto the floor of the Mazda Demio, and it was a goddamn bloodbath. Like, I haven't seen devastation in a car on a scale like that since I was 17 years old and spilt the entire contents of a cut-in-half 3-litre Kerry orange juice full of bong water on the floor of my Subaru Impreza. This dude down here, he voted yes in the referendum. He's like, finally a joke for me. The guy knows the smell of bong water. It is a weird smell, bong water, eh? If you don't know what bong water smells like, it kind of smells like the water that flowers have been in, but with none of the joy. So there's an entire extra large flat white in the footwell of my Mazda Demio. And you know when there's a mess like so bad you don't even know how you're going to deal with it at all? I was like, oh, what am I going to do? I had to get out of the car to look at it. I got out, looked down at the mess, and I was thinking, how am I going to clean this up? And as I was standing there looking at the mess, a Hilux drove past, and within the Hilux, a dude yelled out, "Are you going to put that on TV, you fuckwits?" So nice to get recognised, but ultimately it was pretty hurtful. But it's a fun job. I get to do fun stuff all the time. I get sent out and about around to do things, not the cool stuff, like if they're like, hey, here's a trip to New York, they're like, let's send Khan or Lloyd. But if they're like, hey, let's go interview the cow who's given the most semen to other cows in New Zealand, they're like, let's send old T-Bone. I'm out there being like, hey, Beamer, why is your jizz so good? It's an interview I did. I got paid for that shit. But I do get to do fun things, I really do. And I was at a meeting fairly recently, and there was sort of like maybe like 15 people sitting around a table, all like the high sort of running people at both Discovery and also the project. And I was sitting around the table, and something came up, an opportunity, and someone goes, hey, Tony might be good for this. And I was stoked. I was like, I'd be keen. And then I sort of started thinking about it, and I thought like, oh, like if I'm really honest with myself, I think it'd probably be better for the show overall if one of the other hosts did it. And I was like, oh, I should probably say as much. And I was like, on the tip of my tongue, I was like, what's the saying for like, you know, like I don't want to diss myself, but I want to positive someone else. Like, what's that saying? Like, you know, I don't want to hurt my own feelings, but I want to positive someone else. And I was like, oh, I can't think of it. And I had to think and say something. And what came out of my mouth, heat of the moment, I just was like, hey, I don't want to shit on my own face here. But wouldn't it be better if Jeremy Corbett did this? And someone goes, yeah, you're right. And then someone else goes, did you just say I don't want to shit on my own face? And someone else goes, yeah. And then someone else goes, I don't even think that's possible. And now I was annoyed because I was only trying to help with the show. So I stood up and I was like, well, of course it's possible. All you got to do is sort of lay down on your back like this and then just sort of flick your feet up over your head like that. And once you're in this position, you can really just go to town on yourself. And, well, brings me no real joy to tell you guys that while I was lying on my back with my legs over my head in a boardroom with about 20 of the most high-profile people from Discovery and the TV show The Project, it dawned on me that the person who said, I don't even think that's possible, was referring to Jeremy Corbett's availability. And at no stage were they concerned with the logistics of me shitting on my own face. Some audiences clap after that. No, they don't really. Oh, it's physical up here. Physical comedy is tough stuff. I used to be like quite, I think when I started out, I used to try to get around the stage. Excuse me. When I started out, I tried to get around the stage, be quite physical, but I had to stop. I got an injury fairly early on in my career. Got an injury. I broke my rib. Broke my rib quite badly early on. I broke my rib at a stag do because I'm a fucking lad. Yeah, one of the boys. One of the boys. Let's go indeed. Broke my rib at a stag do. Got around the boys. Got a head of steam up. Went crazy. How I broke my rib at the stag do as I was carrying a single espresso martini and I tripped down a single step and landed on an ottoman. I sense some confusion in the room. Some of you guys thinking, what's an ottoman? And that's valid, that's fair. If you don't know what an ottoman is a thing like, sort of, it looks like the couch, but it's not the couch. It's in the same sort of fabric as the couch, but it's a different piece of furniture than the couch. Like an ottoman is what you get if the couch fucked the coffee table. That's the ottoman. And I think we should ban them. We don't need them. Ban the ottoman. Also, while we're banning things, we simply have to ban single steps in rooms. These are a hazard. If you go in a room with a single step, you walk in the room and you trip down it, and then you think, well, I tripped down it the first time, but luckily, I'll remember that for next time. No, you fucking won't. It's embarrassing. I feel like it's the most embarrassing thing in relation to steps than the other thing you can do sometimes where you're walking down a large flight of steps, aka stairs. And you're walking down them, but you might be carrying something. You might be carrying, like, I don't know, like a cardboard box or your washing basket or an ottoman you're getting rid of. You're walking down the stairs, but you can't see the steps as you walk down them. Well, we know how to walk down steps, right? You walk down them and you get to the bottom step and then you just walk off. Nice and easy, right? But because you can't see the bottom step, you go to step off what you think is the bottom step, only be greeted by another fucking step. And that is truly terrifying. Like, I feel like missing the final step is the closest feeling you can get to skydiving at a mere fraction of the cost. That's a sale, son. And it's scary. Like, you lose control momentarily. You're like, whoop! Yeah. Involuntarily yelp. You piss a little bit. Usually just a little bit. You don't piss to completion. You don't piss and have to shake at the end. It's not a full load. It's just like, it's one squirt of piss is how I describe it. It's like Nana sneezing at Christmas. It's like just it's one underpants amount of piss is how I would describe it. Like, you do need to change them. Well, and by the way, that's the whole reason we as a species wear underpants, so we can piss just a little bit and get away with it. It is, otherwise we just wear our jeans, man. No, we wear our undies so we can piss, wash the undies, the jeans, they're clean to wear another day. A couple of ladies in the house not appreciating this piece of comedy. And that's totally fine. Ladies, I've got a lot of respect for you guys. I do. I think you guys do an amazing job. You're out there crushing it, constantly doing incredible shit. It's like modern women are simply incredible. I really do. Because it must be hard to be a woman in 2022. Like, I can only imagine how hard it must be to be a lady in 2022. Like, let me mansplain to you 3 reasons why it's hard to be a lady in 2022. Reason number 1. Rompers. Play suits. You know what I'm talking about? Like those all-in-onesie things that girls get in and then go to the club. They look great. I'll give you that much. They look fantastic. But I have heard on good authority that once you guys zip yourselves into one of these overalls, that if you go out and about, when you go to the bathroom, in order to do so efficiently, you've got to get completely naked. Which is just no way to live your life. Because that means if you go to like a wine and food festival or a concert where people are drinking heavily and there's a giant row of portaloos, there's pretty good odds that inside one of those portaloos is a shit-faced naked woman way too drunk to get back into her party onesie. It's like a head in the leg hole, like, oh God, there's a hole down here. She's like, I wish that was there earlier. The second reason why I think it must be hard to be a lady, and before I say this, I'll preface this by saying, ladies, I know men are a nightmare for you. I understand that. I've seen Judge Judy. We are always the defendant. Every time we are in cuffs. But, ladies, you guys have complicated relationships with each other. You do. You like the way you guys communicate. It's very interesting. You do this thing that I call sounds nice, isn't nice. I was at work and I heard an older lady say to a young lady, she goes, hey, I love your rings. Yeah, I could just never wear that many rings because I look like a goblin. It sounds like you're saying, I love your rings, but really you're saying, you look a bit like a goblin. I was at a wedding once and I heard a lady say to another lady, she goes, hey, I love your dress. Oh, it's so refreshing to see someone who doesn't care what other people think of them. It sounds like you're saying, I love your dress. Really, you're saying, you look crazy and people are talking. And the last reason why I think it must be hard to be a lady in 2022 is, what's your hair? It's your beautiful long locks. Obviously, what I wouldn't do for my own, not for your. No, I'm not. You're safe. I'm not coming for you here. I would like to be able to grow my own. But I've heard that to have such like lovely long hair, right? It takes a lot of maintenance, and because you guys live such busy lives, you don't always have the time to give it the maintenance that it requires, and that's fine. So every now and again, you might cut a little corner, right? So you might go out for like a run, for instance, get sweaty, get home, hop in the shower, but you don't have time to wash the hair properly, so you pop a little shower hat on the head, wash the body, of course, get out of the shower, dry the body, pop off the shower hat, and then blow dry out the sweat, and then cover that up with dry shampoo, which is fucking disgusting. It's horrific. Like the male equivalent of that is to masturbate, ejaculate onto your stomach, rub it in, and then spray it over with Lynx Africa. It's disgusting, ladies. It's disgusting, ladies. I told that joke actually just in a room very close to here one time, and a dude, he was about 3 rows back, wasn't heckling, just said to himself under his breath, loud enough for me to hear, he goes, the snake skin. It just really stuck with me because that's the perfect name for it. It's so perfect. I'm like, oh, that's good stuff. Like, you can just imagine, like, this is David Attenborough being like, and here we have the majestic king cobra snakeskin. Oh, it's jizz, yeah. Pretty good David Attenborough impersonation, I thought. Until the jizz bit sort of lost its way there. This is lovely stuff. I'm from West Auckland. It's a great place. People often will say, if I'm from West Auckland, they're like, oh, it's a bit scary out there, eh? And I'm always like, it's not that bad. Like, in West Auckland, like, the worst thing that will happen to you is from time to time, you might get a beating. Not that bad. And pretty recently, I was the Mazda Demio broke down, and so I was in the mechanic. I caught a bus home from a gig. It was like 11:30 at night. Bus home, walked from the bus stop to my house. About 11:30 at night, walking along, and a car sort of like slowly ambled up beside me. I thought to myself, oh, here comes a beating. Limber up. Just go loose like last time. Got ready for it. He pulled up. The window buzzed down, there's a big dude inside, big burly dude. And he looked down at me and he just goes, hey boy, do you want some fucking chicken? And in my head I was like, yes. But I'd also like some more information. But I didn't want to scare him off. So I was like, hey man, I don't want to shit on my own face here, but why do you have so much chicken? And he was like, oh, buddy, I just finished my shift at KFC on the North Shore, ages from here. I'm not from around here at all. I'm actually really lost. I'm trying to find my mate's house. He lives somewhere around here. And we finished our shift and we closed up the fryers and we got to take home 3 buckets of chicken. But it's just me and my mate at his house. We don't need 3 buckets. And I saw you there. I thought, this guy might like a bucket of chicken. So I thought I'd stop, give you a bucket. You go your separate way. I'll take the other 2 buckets. I'll go my separate way. Easy as that. You take a bucket, you go your way. I'll take 2 buckets. I'll go another. And I was like, this is the greatest night of my life. Incredible. And so what I did is I walked around to the driver's side of the door, opened up the door, pulled him out of the car, kicked him in the head and carjacked him and said, welcome to West Auckland, bitch. Oh, big dog's got to eat. Oh. Some of that story is true, by the way. Some of that story is indeed true. The true part of that story is I was once walking home from a gig and a car drove past. You guys are a bunch of legends. Thanks very much for coming. My name's Tony. Have a good one. Bye.